everyone. In the last episode, we looked at the world truths and the characters' truths, which included setting up the character. As a reminder, when I first played this adventure, I only used the prompts from the Wandering Tea Garden. So, this first episode has a lot of long prose in it. I guess the vibe was more novel-esque, whereas when I introduced Iron Valley into it, I started breaking it up more with more of the game mechanics, and so the prose got shorter. Maybe. There were still some parts with long prose, so hopefully you are okay with listening to that sort of thing. I did return to my written version of this episode, and then I applied an Iron Valley lens, which did change some things. So if some things seem a bit like, where did that come from? It's because I am doing hand-wavy retcon things and trying to figure out the overall direction of my story. In terms of the story, this is scene 1. So here is the idea behind today's adventure. Sampaguita dreams of buying a carriage so she can grow a rooftop garden and travel around the world, brewing special teas. Today's the day she tries to strike a deal. Will she be successful? Let's find out. Also, I just want to say that this is a Sandbox campaign in the sense that although I have said that the goal is that this is a romance roleplay, it's a sandbox in the sense that there will be things emerging, like as a game master, I will be introducing elements into the game based on oracles and prompts and dice rolls and just random ideas for my brain. And Sampaguita, as a character, will respond to them and we'll see where it goes. And I'm finding that as I'm playing, that a lot of things are emerging that I would not have expected or thought about if I had just been left to my own devices. So there's no overarching plot here other than I really want her to fall in love with an orc because it's called tea time with your orc lover. And that's basically it. Other than that, things may or may not happen. It's really meant to be a sandbox rather than campaign driven in the sense that there are story beats that we definitely need to hit. It's just that Sampaguita has her own goals. She wants to grow a rooftop garden and she wants to travel around the world. So that's where we are at. Okay, we're jumping into the gameplay now. Oracle. When are you starting your adventure? I used the Iron Valley dates table and I got the result of 49, which means it is summer 24 when we start the game. The next oracle I asked was, where does the story start? And for this one, I used Wandering Tea Garden's locations table. I rolled a 1d6. Oh, sorry, I should have explained. With the Iron Valley dates, any Iron Valley tables will use a D100, but you're using 2 D10s. The first die notes to the tens place, and the second die refers to the ones place. So if I rolled a 4 and a 9, which I did, then it becomes 49 and it becomes summer 24. But in saying that, I actually use the solo RPG toolkit plugin on Obsidian, so I don't actually technically roll dice in real life. I could, but it just seemed faster to do it using the plugin.
Next oracle question. Where is your starting location?
For this one, though, I rolled a 1d6. I got a 5, which meant I start my story in a sprawling city atop a cliff. And I thought that that starting city would look like this. Talabis City. As you can see, this is it looks like a big city. It's on a cliff. So it's got beautiful views. It's on a mountain. I think that's like the sea underneath. Talabis means cliff in Tagalog, which is my native language, and I just thought it sounded cool as a name, so I used it as the city name. I don't know much yet about Talabis City other than there's an outskirts area with lots of greenery, and also there are lots of places for Sampaguita to forage. because she likes to forage. I guess we will discover more as we play the game. So just to recap, Sampaguita is the player character who I am playing as. This is what she looks like. I know she's very cute, or at least I think she's cute, and based on what I know about art. Her stats are Edge 1, Heart 3, Iron 1, Shadow 2, and Wits 2. A reminder that the stats in Iron Valley don't change over time, which I think is the same in Iron Sworn. So she's basically stuck with these stats, which is fine because her skills change. She can upgrade her skills, she can buy new skills, and that's how you get better rolls. You'll see what I mean very shortly. The other thing to note is that Sampaguita has made 3 promises, and you can see those promises on the right hand side of the screen. We've got a picture of a map, and that's meant to represent her dream of exploring the world and its garden of delights. She just likes gardens, okay? Her second starting promise is that she wants to brew teas from her garden carriage, and her third starting promise is she wants to open her wandering tea garden. Luna, be quiet. So those are her 3 starting promises, and we're going to make lots more promises as we play the game because the promises are the main driver of progress. That's how you basically make action happen, and because promises are your goals and you want them to happen, so then you take action or do moves to make those things happen. So we want lots of promises. The 3 starting items that she started with are a kalimba, a cookbook, and eggs. We're actually going to get on with playing the game now. I know, I keep saying that. Like, when are we actually going to play? We're starting now, okay? Let's go. Sampaguita is on the outskirts of Talabis City, and she is standing in front of a carriage that she is thinking of purchasing. She's there with a gnome, who is the merchant who's trying to sell it, and she's just having a look at it, and she's admiring the outside, and now she wants to go in. So Sampaguita pulled the door open, yanking at it with more force than needed. She found herself off balance, her dark brown hair thrown back suddenly. The young woman held fast to the wood, steadying herself and smoothing out her wide checkered skirts. I told you it's in good condition, chided a sour voice. Okay, so who's talking? It's a new character! As I said, this carriage seller is a gnome. Sampaguita doesn't know his name yet, but it is Bayabas, which means guava fruit in Tagalog. This is basically you going to learn Filipino for no reason. I'm just going to introduce random Filipino elements. And Bayabas is an older masculine gnome who goes by he, him pronouns. Sampaguita paid the gnome no mind, stepping into the carriage. In her experience, doors tended to stick more than not, and couldn't be trusted to stay shut. Inside, she took stock of the rounded space with its sloped ceiling and curved walls. On the far wall was a large window with stained glass extending nearly from corner to corner. Bright summer lights streamed in, bathing the space in a warm glow and rainbow hues. Beneath the window lay a solid wood cabinet with many drawers. To the left was a small door and a stepladder. You can sleep in there, or use it as storage. Either way, declared the gnome. Okay, I need to clarify. The gnome, not all gnomes have this squeaky voice, but I have decided that Bayabas has a squeaky voice because I don't know why, just reasons. Yeah, so that's Bayabas. That's how he speaks, okay? And I don't have a lot of accents or voices in my retinue, so we have to make do with what I have. Okay, you can sleep in there or use it as storage. Either way, declared the gnome as he shut the door behind him. Surprisingly, there was plenty of room for the 2 of them. He stepped past Sampaguita and climbed the short ladder to open the small door. It goes like, he huffed, pulling at the door. Cocking her head, Sampaguita easily opened it for him. Thanks, chirped the gnome, before he waved at the small opening with flourish. It was as yet empty, but could possibly fit a mattress, maybe more likely. "Clever engineering," said the gnome smugly. "This space is underneath the driver's box. A half-orc physician ordered this custom, so he always had all his implements no matter how far his patients lived. Notice the high ceilings, eh?" Sampaguita turned slowly and noted that, except for the large windows and cabinets, there was only the open door, more windows, and bare walls. The ceilings were, she agreed, a good height. "That no-good physician changed his mind," the gnome groused. Sampaguita turned to face the merchant, frowning down at him. "Why? Isn't it good construction?" she asked. Although no stranger to leaky homes, Sampaguita felt that her grand adventure deserved a respectable backdrop. Leaks would only harm her plans, not to mention damage the carriage itself. She knew all about that. The gnome scoffed at her. "I built this carriage myself. It's good construction." He thwacked his open palm against the walls. "See? Solid timber." Tucking a lock of hair behind her ear, Sampaguita assessed him. "But you said the original buyer backed out. That doesn't bode well." "Bah!" spat the gnome. "This will hold against any weather. Mark my words." Sampaguita only hummed in response as she unlatched the windows and tested them. Shrill shrieking accosted their ears as the windows opened wide. The gnome winced. "That's me baby. I better hurry home to help the wife." He tapped his foot nervously. "Look, this carriage has been sitting here for a good while now," he began. "I'll do you a deal if you take it off my hands today." Sampaguita frowned again. She wasn't planning on making such a large purchase after only a short inspection. She didn't even have a horse, and she said as much to the gnome. "You can pull it yourself. You're big enough," he huffed. "My missus is sick of this city, and this is the last of the large wares I need to sell." The distant shrieking continued. Sampaguita carefully shut the windows and noticed that it kept out the shrill cries. That would be handy on her travels, she supposed. "I have yet other carriages to view," she stated primly. "It would have to be a very good deal for me to make a decision today." The gnome sighed. "You'll be needing something to draw the carriage, you said?" The dark-eyed woman nodded, looking around the carriage for any signs of damage or neglect. You never knew with these merchant types. The gnome sighed again and reached high on his tiptoes to open the door. He stuck his head out and whistled. Sampaguita followed him, looking out. At the whistle, a donkey ambled towards them. Its coat was shiny, long, and sorrel in color. Its eyes were bright and brimming with intelligence. The animal came to a stop by the carriage and brayed, shaking its long mane and tail. Sampaguita thought it looked beautiful, but wasn't sure it was up to the task. "Donkey's as good as a horse, maybe better, and cheaper," intoned the gnome, catching the look on her face. He held out his hand. "Good enough a deal?" Sampaguita blinked at the gnome. "What's its name?" "His name is your business, not mine." "How do I care for him then?" she countered. "How are you planning to care for a horse?" The gnome raised a brow at her. Blinking again, Sampaguita mulled the matter over. Donkeys were known for their strength and their hardiness, after all, and fished out her purse from under her skirts. She handed over all her gold and most of her silver. Yeah, we're raining gold. So noting again that there's no gold in the Iron Valley setting, or rather gold exists but it's not really used or spoken about. So I'm using gold as a narrative technique, I guess. I don't know if I'd call it a technique, but the idea is that it's a large purchase, so it's easier to handle with gold, but I'm not actually going to talk about gold amounts. Will the merchant gnome accept her payment? So roll 1d6. What did we get? I got a 3, and I don't remember what system I used to get this, but I just wrote down no.
I figured it out. I used the Yes No Oracle for Iron Valley, which is part of the Ask the Spirit of the Forest move. I don't normally use this Oracle because I just prefer Mune. I don't know, I just like it. I think I prefer the yes and yes but options. But in this case specifically, I rolled 2d10, so two 10-sided dice, and I got a 3, so that was a no.
And then I remember groaning to myself because I was like, wait a minute, I kind of need the carriage to make the story work. Because otherwise, it's not a wandering tea garden. So, this is the first time that I realized that if you absolutely need something to happen, you don't ask the oracle the question. I only got that advice a little bit later in my solo role playing journey. So, word of advice. Don't ask questions you don't want the answers to. It works in life and in role playing games. From here, we already had our first big twist. I don't have a carriage, therefore, how do we make this work? So that was interesting. And I guess I could roll again, but that seemed not in the spirit of things. So, we must persist.
This is a fine carriage, and I have fetched you an animal to boot. The donkey snorted as if to agree. This will not do. Pursing her lips, Sampaguita handed over the rest of her silver, leaving only precious few bronze coins in her purse. Bayabas still did not look impressed. Look, he began, but he was cut off by a yowling noise. And he blanched, and he pushed the coins back into Sampaguita's hands. I have to go. The baby. And he was pushing Sampaguita out the door with surprising strength. Before Sampaguita could dig her heels in, they were already out on the ground, and the carriage door was locked. So the merchant climbed aboard the donkey, muttering to himself about time wasters. Ooh. And okay, so then at this point, Sampaguita steels herself with a deep breath, and she moves to stand in front of the donkey. How much more do you need, sir? She looked him straight in the eye. This is all I have. Please, I'm desperate to leave the city.
Just meta from me, but like, I know she was literally just saying that she doesn't want to just make a decision out of the blue without really thinking about it. And then all of a sudden she's like, no, I must get this. Because, like, I feel like she's thinking, oh, if this one is a deal and it's not going to work, then does that mean that any other carriage I go and see is like way too expensive and out of my price range, and therefore I'm never gonna like realize or achieve my dreams? And so she has a moment of panic, and now she's like, I desperately must get this carriage. That's my justification.
The gnome adjusted his hat and frowned up at her. He opened his mouth to speak, but winced instead upon hearing renewed screeching. He tugged at the donkey's reins, and the two began to trot in the direction of the screams. So I'm guessing the baby has, what's that word? Colic or something? Because the baby is crying a lot. I can help with your baby, Sampaguita pleaded. She jog-walked to keep a pace. I have a tea blend that's chamomile-based, and many mothers swear by it. Well, 2 mothers swear by it, and one was her own mom, but, you know, still counts. That's still, more than one. The gnome cast her a disbelieving look. If true, you would have untold riches, he deadpanned, because babies cry a lot. Her cheeks reddened, and she told herself it was from the exertion. I work. I don't have time to forage. This was going to be my new start. She wasn't sure how she was going to prove this to him, and now they were in front of another carriage. Bayabas carefully climbed off the donkey. A lady gnome emerged from the carriage looking harried and rocking a baby. And before he goes to help with his kid, the gnome frowns and goes, I tell you what, he began. Knock on my door if you can help me with my baby. He sighed. I help me wife, but my baby is crying all the time. And then he shored up his shoulders, gave Sampaguita a grim smile, and he goes, The name's Bayabas if you come knocking. Then he rushed to his family, forgetting all about Sampaguita, as he took over the thankless task of rocking a screaming baby.
What will happen next? Find out next time.